Good evening, sci-fi movie nerds, and welcome to another edition of the Sci-Fi Movie Guy. Today we're going to be doing my Star Trek Beyond spoilers review. So if you haven't seen the movie, turn it off, bookmark it, come back and watch it later after you've watched the movie, or unless you're not planning on seeing the movie and you want to find out if I think you should go, well, then watch it. But I'm going to tell you some of the plot holes, some of the twists, not the whole movie, but in order to accurately describe what I thought of the movie, I have to tell you a little bit about it. So, let's get started with the fact that I don't think this was a Star Trek movie. This was an incredibly action-packed film. Done by Justin Lin. He's the director of Fast and Furious. And it was a great action film. I was on the edge of my seat, enjoying it, stuffing my face full of popcorn. But I didn't get a really great Star Trek film, I'm afraid to say. Now, for a great Star Trek film, I need a few things. I need really great interaction between the characters. And there was some of that, and I'm going to go into some of it. Like, there was some homage paid to the original Star Trek, of course. But not enough, for me anyway. But I also need a lot of technology-based solutions, scientific exploration, exploring humanity, and all of that was kind of blended in very in the undertones of the movie. It was an underlying theme way somewhere in the back, but this is basically an action film. So if you want to go see a movie and stuff your face full of popcorn like I do and have escape for 2 hours and 15 minutes, then it's definitely worth going to see. But I'm starting to understand why some of the diehard Star Trek fans are not liking the rebooted movies. For me, it was more of a kids movie for sure, so you can take your kids to this movie. It's PG, and I think it's more G than P, but that's up to you to decide. But the whole movie opens up with Captain Kirk, and he's sitting there and he's negotiating with this other alien race on behalf of another alien race trying to create a peace treaty. And he's in this giant auditorium, and up in the sky there's all these head delegates from this thing, and he's bringing them a gift from the other set of aliens. And they look like they're these giant, mean aliens. And then all of a sudden, he pisses them off somehow because he's not that diplomatic. And I like Chris Pine's take on Kirk because he's not trying to imitate William Shatner. He's just being his own Kirk with some of the Kirk-isms. And all of a sudden, these creatures jump down and they're about this big. They reminded me of little Ewoks. And they were jumping on his back and trying to eat him. And he has to get out of there and they have to beam him away. And it's kind of funny. And good humor. And so I thought, oh, we're going to have a really great Star Trek film. There's the quip between Scotty and Kirk when he gets beamed up. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Good Star Trek. Then we get into Spock gets some news that Ambassador Spock has died. So they're giving a little bit of an homage to Leonard Nimoy's passing. And this makes Spock start to wonder about whether or not he wants to stay in Starfleet or if he should go back to New Vulcan and help repopulate his species and become a scholar there and help further the Vulcan way. And at the same time, there's a great scene between Kirk and Bones in Kirk's quarters, and they're having a drink and they're really talking really cool stuff. And at one point, Kirk goes, well, you know what? He goes, I joined Starfleet 4 years ago on a dare, whereas my dad believed in Starfleet, and he was a captain for 10 minutes and did more than I've done in the last 4 years. And Bones like, no, Kirk, you're awesome. And you know what? All these people wouldn't be alive without you, and here's all the difference you've made. And again, I love that part too. But then you get into the main focus of the movie. So they're going to this space station because this alien has come and said that, you know, her spaceship crashed in this nebula and they have to go in and find her ship. And so it's a thing. So just before they leave, Captain Kirk talks to an admiral at the space station, says, did you get my application for vice admiral? And she goes, yes, we did. We'll review it while you're gone on your mission. So he's thinking about leaving the Enterprise as well. And you know what? I like this, but I don't like this because it's kind of the same thing that was happening throughout all the original Star Trek movies. So I was very excited that we have a rebooted universe so we could tell different stories, but all the same common themes are there, and I guess they would be because it's still the same people, just in a rebooted universe, but they're going to have the same things, although Captain Kirk's dad didn't die in the original. So anyway, lots of different things. But then we get into that Spock and Bones. Well, no, let's go back. So the Enterprise gets attacked as they go into the nebula. So this alien that had said, "Come save my ship," was actually luring them in there because the big bad evil villain Krull wanted something that was on the Enterprise. Now, the evil villain Krull is played by Idris Elba, and I don't like the motivation they had for him. So to give you the backstory, the USS Franklin was from Jonathan Archer's days when the very, very first Enterprise TV show, and their captain fought in the Xindi Wars and the Romulan Wars, and he was a warrior. And then as Starfleet became less about a war machine and more about the Federation and going out to explore, they gave this warrior as a captain of the USS Franklin. He goes in, crashes the ship, but finds a way to live forever so that he can exact revenge on the Federation for not coming and getting him. And again, very weak storyline as to why the villain is after them. Now, when the villain is attacking the Enterprise, they're attacking with these tiny little ships that just fit a man who flies them, and they're all controlled with frequency. So there's millions of them, and they all go through the Enterprise, and they take apart both nacelles, and the nacelles float away, and then the Enterprise is still able to function with its other drives, and then they cut the neck off of it, so now they don't even have an impulse engine, and so the saucer section crash lands, and then we get another bit of Star Trek. But throughout that whole action sequence, and they refer to them as Space Bees, which I think is really underrating Star Trek and dumbing it down for the fans. They could have come up with some technical name for them and explained how they work a little better. But no, we got Space Bees. And so, but they get to the planet and they're all separated. So we've got, and of course we have Spock and Bones together, which plays some amazing back and forth. Spock is injured and Bones has to help save him. And there's this one great scene where they're joking and quipping, and Spock tells Bones how much he really respects him. And I thought it was obvious, Bones, but I guess it wasn't. And you get some of the back and forth of Star Trek. So this whole movie, I guess, what you're doing is you're getting a big action film with 3 minutes here and 4 minutes here and 2 minutes here of good Star Trek moments. I would rather have a Star Trek film with 2, 3, 4 minutes of action sequences. So I guess that's why I have an issue with this movie. I want a Star Trek film with action, not an action film with Star Trek thrown in here and there. Now we get to the way they defeat the enemy, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. They get the USS Franklin up and running that had crash landed on the planet. Now, if the Enterprise crash landed on the planet, I guess they got attacked though, but still, they get this Franklin up and running after 40 years of being desolate on this planet, and they go back up. And then they figure out that all these millions of Space Bees are communicating through a frequency to coordinate their attacks. So they have to figure out a way to disrupt the frequency. So what they do is they play rock music through their communication device. And so literally, they're playing this 90s rock song, and all of a sudden, all these millions of spaceships start blowing up and crashing into each other. And that's the way they save the day, by turning on a ghetto blaster. Really? I am used to Star Trek with the technology and the science and making you think, and no, folks, it's as easy as turning on some rock music and flying through them. Anyway, big disappointment on how they destroy the villain. There are some great points, though. Again, you have Spock and Kirk coming together and saving each other again, and so that's why they stay on the Enterprise. And they show the Enterprise A being built in fast motion, so that when we go into Star Trek 4 movie, we don't have to wait and have a big half of the movie about waiting to get their ship. So no, it'll be ready, and they'll probably have the little quirks of, a brand new starship like they did in the old series. And that's what I liked about this movie, is they gave some homage to the old series, and it was really good, but too much of an action film for me. Now, Sulu was supposed to have this, they show him and his husband and their daughter, but it's very brief, and they've got their hand around each other's backs, and you can tell they're together and they're a couple. And it's nice the way he calls his daughter Demora, from a flashback of Demora Sulu on Star Trek 7 Generations when we meet her on the bridge. So that's pretty cool. But there was supposed to be an interracial kiss where Sulu and his husband kissed, and that got cut out. And I think that was a mistake. I had reported earlier that, they were going to show the first time ever a gay man kissing another gay man on Star Trek. And I think it would have been a win. And they didn't take advantage of it, and they cut it out. Now, maybe it didn't make sense for the movie and they had to keep the story going. But really, a quick kiss, how's that going to affect the story? But they didn't do it. And then there's a scene where young Spock gets a package from Ambassador Spock near the end of the movie, and he opens it up and he sees this picture from the alternate universe, and it's a picture taken on the bridge in Star Trek 5 of Shatner and Nimoy and DeForest Kelley and James Doohan and all of the old cast, and basically it's showing what they'll all look like when they're older. And so Spock decides, after seeing this, that no, he's going to stay and help the Enterprise, because it must have been important to Ambassador Spock to stay with the Enterprise, so he's going to stay. So again, paying homage back to the original crew, which I love. I love those little drops where they drop things in. Another thing they did was the USS Franklin's registry number was NX, and then Leonard Nimoy's birthday. So that was another little homage to Leonard Nimoy. And lots of cool things like that. But all in all, this wasn't really a Star Trek movie. You could have taken any group of people in a different spaceship, like taken Guardians of the Galaxy, put their ship in this, and had the exact same plot, and it would have been a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So that's what I didn't like about it. Because great action film, I'm not saying don't go see it. Go see it. A little too PG for me. Not enough Star Trek stuff in it for me, but overall a good movie. So I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. And I had to stretch to get to a 6.5. I really should be giving it a 6, but I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10 because I was able to sit there, stuff my face full of popcorn, and enjoy a movie. Now, I think Star Trek in 2009 and Star Trek with Khan in 2012, I think both of those were better Star Trek movies. I think, and you know what? They were done by J.J. Abrams. This is the first one that isn't being directed by J.J. And I think Justin Lin was a poor choice as director for this because he's the Fast and Furious director and he makes action films. And so they got away from the Star Trek. Now, I hope that he doesn't direct Star Trek 4 because Chris Hemsworth is coming back as Kirk's father in Star Trek 4. They've already announced that. And so it has to be a time travel movie. So I'm hoping they get back into Star Trek and they'll bring in a different director that has more of a love for Star Trek than a love for action films. Again, go see this movie. It's worth it. But don't expect a really great Star Trek film like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, or Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Don't expect that because you're not going to get it. You know what? Expect a great action film. And with that, I'm going to leave you. Thanks again for watching this. Please share it so that other people can watch it. And leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts on the movie are. Am I crazy? Am I right? And just remember, everybody, nerds rule the world.